This is an explicit podcast where we try to keep the conversations as raw and authentic as possible with no intentions of hurting anyone. So if you're very woke, religious, or sensitive, we highly recommend you do not tune in. Damn, okay. Yeah, we're actually rolling already.
Okay,
Yeah,
sweet.
let's get it. We've got Iqbal in the house, aka Ik to the Ball. I guess first time I've heard about you was definitely seeing one of your posts. You bring like huge awareness to a lot of the interesting scandals and I would say the uglier side to just Malaysian news as well. Very interesting stuff. Have you always been interested in like politics, or how do you come about doing this content creation stuff?
So yeah, I guess I've always been interested in politics.
Since you were little?
Yeah, I was there like during the 1998 Reformasi protests. My parents were like carrying me as a child.
Okay.
Like I was in that crowd. And I remember very clearly like screaming Reformasi as my parents were carrying me. I grew up in a very politically aware household.
Yeah.
There was one time in like standard 3 or something, we were reading like a newspaper clipping. And then one of my classmates, like he had to read it out loud and it had the word UMNO in it.
Yeah.
But when he got to the word, he like paused for a bit and said UMNO. And I was like, what the hell? Don't you know that that's UMNO? Yeah. How do you
How
live?
old were you again? Standard
This was
3?
like standard 3, I think.
Most kids wouldn't know.
Yeah, and I was like, how the hell do you not know?
Yeah.
Like, do your parents not talk about this ever in your house? I was like, and then that was when I realized, oh, maybe this is not normal.
It is. It could be like sometimes it's even taboo, man. Like in some households.
I guess so. Because so not only my parents, like my whole extended family, like when we would balik kampung for like raya and stuff.
Which part
Mom is from Perak, but then my grandparents had a house in
which
like
part
Kedah.
of Perak? My dad's from Perak.
Taiping.
Taiping, mine's from Setiawan.
Oh,
You know Setiawan?
no.
Fuchao town. Yeah,
Okay.
somewhere near about 30-40 minutes from Ipoh.
Okay.
Yeah, so we would go back every Chinese New Year. Yeah,
No,
so
yeah.
yeah, you were saying?
Yeah. So I guess we're both northerners then. But then my dad was from the south. He was
But
from
you
Johor.
were born in KL.
I was born in KL.
Same here.
Yeah.
It's funny, right? That people always say like, "Where's your kampung?" Then we would tell them that, "Oh, my kampung's in Perak," but it's not actually your.
Yeah,
kampung.
it's not. It's like
People say that though.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you
like I'm
saying?
supposed to feel some affinity for this place, this little town that I only go to like once a year. Anyway,
Yeah. What's up?
yeah. So like when we would go back for balik kampung and then for like raya, and then the whole family would be there. Like the kids would just be kidding away, but then the adults, like at 7 p.m, always the adults would make it such a big thing that like, okay, kena tengok berita, and then find out what's happening in the country.
This
or the
is
world.
even when the election is not around the corner.
Yeah.
Just all the time.
Just all the time.
Interesting, man. Your environment that you were growing up with. Mine's so different, dude.
You didn't have that, so I don't know.
To be honest, I actually have a family member that also is in politics. But that's the funny part. Apart from him, no one talks about any of this. Like we barely. I don't know. It's funny, man. Like the other extended family, apart from him, he does his thing. Everyone else doesn't really talk much about it.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, do you have any like why do you think is the reason that you were drawn towards politics? I know you were immersed in it, but why do you think is the reason you were drawn towards it?
I guess also just in terms of just right and wrong. We watched it all the time. Like when we're watching Marvel movies, or we're watching
It's drama.
superhero movies. No, it's just a matter of like good versus bad, wrong versus right, evil
Sure.
versus all that stuff. And I feel like politics is real life that,
Yeah.
when you're talking about someone stole X million ringgit from a project that was supposed to help kids in rural schools in Malaysia. It's like that's pure evil to me. And I don't know, that not only is that like fascinating, not only is that like
Are you referring to a specific?
I am referring to something specific, but like also at the same time, it's like as an abstract, how are you not captivated by that? How do you not see that and get angry or get emotional?
Yeah. I got you. I guess then it kind of makes sense why you're so invested, because you see things from a different way. I myself, I choose to be. I don't choose to be. I just naturally I'm a bit ignorant. And honestly, yesterday I was trying to read up like political stuff. Just trying to not feel like an asshole when I talk to you about this shit. Then I realized that okay, I'm gonna stop trying. A lot of things that I don't know, I'm gonna ask you, because I think you would be much better at explaining, and I can play the dummy role.
Hopefully, I don't know. I don't do this professionally, so to speak. Like, well, I guess I kind of do now that I work at BFM, but like, it's not that I have professional experience.
Do
in
you
politics.
go on air on BFM, or you just do the content creating?
Just content creating. They had me like record maybe like 5 seconds of video
Okay.
clips.
Because I was thinking like, yeah, because I tried to search you up on YouTube and stuff. I couldn't find anything of you speaking other than your podcast.
They do have me on YouTube, but I guess they've never like put my name to it.
Okay. How long you been with BFM?
Going up on 3 months now.
3
months.
Only 3 months?
Yeah, so we got back from Texas. My wife and I got back from Texas maybe in late June, early July.
What sort of a visa were you on?
We were on an intercompany transfer. So she works with a multinational corporation.
Sure.
And so they transferred her to
Okay,
their
and you were
company
like
there.
the
I was
spouse.
a sugar baby, yeah.
Yeah,
100%.
lovely. Yeah. So you live in Texas for how long, man?
Just over 2 years.
How's it, dude?
It was so good.
That's so
It
good.
was so good. It was like, okay, so right now, like give me 3 to 5 words what you think
Of Texas.
is, yeah.
Okay.
Off the top of your head.
Off the top, Cowboys, number one, not gonna lie.
Cowboys.
Gunslinging.
Okay, guys.
Number 2, what do you call that? Dust balls.
Okay.
Fucking stereotype, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's 3. Joe Rogan.
Okay, sure. So that's 4.
Mine.
So I will say this: the 3 that you gave,
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever been to a place on Earth where like a stereotype about a place and a people is 100% accurate.
Oh, so you're saying I'm right?
100%. It's like everything you think about Texas, you pergi sana, betul.
What, the accents too? They strong?
100%.
Okay.
It's like they don't. It's not like they're putting it like they're just howdy y'all, and then
Yeah.
behind your back they're like, actually we speak like normal lah. It's not. It's hard. Like even when you're not there, they're speaking like that. It's like weird and. Non-ironically, you'll be walking around the cities in like Dallas or Houston or whatever, and there will be people in like cowboy hats and cowboy boots. Like non-ironically, that's just their
just what they
culture
do,
and
right?
what they're part of their daily life lah. There was one time I volunteered at this like farm, and I was talking to one of the guys there, and he was saying, "Oh yeah, I just moved to this farm here. Before I worked in Dallas, I was like working on a cow ranch, and like we would just ride horses and herd the cows of like 8 hours a day." I was like, holy shit.
Wait, you did that with him?
I didn't do that with him though. It was another farm. This was crawfish farming.
I saw that video, dude.
Yes.
Yeah. Dude, what is crawfish in, like, they don't have it in Malaysia, do they?
I did. I've seen it at Shell Out.
What is shell out?
It's like this chain of restaurants. I think they have it in Publica is the closest one I can think of, where like they mix like clams and mussels and all sorts of shellfish into a plastic bag, and then they just throw it onto the table.
You think it's locally
100%
caught?
not locally. I
Imported?
think it might have been imported from like China or Australia.
Yeah.
So they have their breeds of crawfish, but crawfish is essentially tiny lobsters.
Yeah, that's exactly what it looks like.
Yeah.
Dude, so you do a lot of things. You make cooking videos.
Yeah.
You travel a lot with your lucky wife, or you're the
I'm the lucky
you're
one.
the lucky one.
She pays. she funds this lifestyle.
That's awesome. Yeah, both of you guys enjoy it together.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
I want to ask you about, because people know you as the dude that talks a lot about political shit. Right. So recently they have just come up with the 2022 cabinet. Actually, yesterday BFM, was that you that published?
No, that was not me.
So
but-
there was a small changes. Like yesterday night only, right? They introduced 2 more positions. Basically, the 2 additions was just the Timbalan Menteri Kewangan 1 and 2. Those were the only 2 additions. Is it?
No, I mean, I guess there were a bunch of changes to this cabinet, but what was really new was us just finally finding out who would be the timbalans, the deputies. And in this case, I think number 1 is like Ahmad Maslan,
Yeah.
and then number 2 is someone else.
Okay.
My wife is just finding out right now.
She's not as into. Is she as into politics as you are?
If I'm like at 100%, she's maybe like 95.
That's because probably spending too much time with you.
Yeah.
Then okay, dude. So Malaysia's cabinet 2022, just in general, right?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on it?
So right before the elections, I made a video saying that voting anything but Pakatan Harapan means you're getting BN. Voting PN means you're getting BN. Voting independent means you're getting BN.
Why so?
just the way our election system is structured, these things called first past the post, where like whoever wins the most votes wins, even if they're like 70. Let's say someone gets 30% of the vote, and then there's like 4 other parties that get 20, 20%, 10%. So technically 70% didn't vote for that 30%, but that 30% still wins because they got the most vote out of everyone.
Oh, okay.
So anyway, that structure essentially means that it was set up in such a way to benefit the ruling government before, and that meant BN. And so if you divide your votes 2020, 2010, you're essentially wasting your vote if you want to try and drop the guy with the 30%. I was saying that like by voting anyone but Pakatan Harapan, who had the best chance of kicking Barisan Nasional out of power, you're essentially voting for BN. And for the past couple of years, BN and PN had been in the government together. When Muhyiddin Yassin was prime minister, he had, part of the Barisan Nasional MPs helping him form the government. And then when Ismail Sabri was our prime minister, there were folks from Perikatan Nasional who were part of his government. There was no real publicly known proof that PH would ever form a government with Barisan Nasional, and there was no proof that Barisan Nasional will ever form a government with PH. There's that like rule: the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. And so to really see who would work with BN, you only had to look at PN, because only PN had ever worked with BN. PH had never worked with BN in the past. Like PH has existed.
But now they're doing so, right?
But now they're doing so, which I think surprised me. But a lot of people, I guess, were giving me grief that I said voting PH would mean you don't get BN, because now PH.
You're getting the backlash.
So I'm forced to kind of put my foot in my mouth. But I don't know. I won't apologize for what I said. I think what I said was still based on facts that were known to us at the time. What we're seeing is totally unprecedented in Malaysian history. There was no single party that got enough seats to form the government, and so in a way, Pakatan Harapan and Barisan Nasional were forced to work together.
Because they were put on a hung parliament for the time being, until they sorted out. Is this the only time ever in election history that they did not accumulate enough seats? Like the winning party did not accumulate enough seats?
As far as I know, yes. Even in like 1969, which had that terrible I want to cut that out. I don't think you can say that.
I talked about it actually in one of my episodes.
I think they're gonna be stricter about it moving forward.
Fuck. So because we got you in the house.
Yeah, exactly. Especially because I got me.
Okay, cut it off. Shit.
So
my god.
Yeah. So we had the racial whatever Rusuhan Kaum in 1969, and the election that preceded that, Barisan Nasional, or it was known as Alliance back then, Alliance still won a majority of the seats. So I don't think there has never been a situation like this where no single party won enough seats to form the government.
Something else that was interesting, 2018, we had Mahathir back in office for being the 7th Prime Minister, and he didn't stay as long as it was expected. It was short-lived. 2022, the Sheraton move happened. And
2020.
2020. March, right? Or February. Could you give just a little summary on what exactly happened in the 2020 Sheraton move?
I guess looking back now with the benefit of hindsight, in 2018, Mahathir...
Are we treading on dangerous waters?
No, I don't think so. In 2017 or 2016, I think Mahathir left Barisan Nasional UMNO because of the whole 1MDB scandal. Najib was seemingly at his most powerful then, and Mahathir, I guess, didn't like Najib, and so figured that the only way of kicking Najib out of power was to work with then Pakatan Harapan, which was DAP, Amanah, and PKR.
I want to ask, why was it necessary for Mahathir to step down to prevent Anwar from being Prime Minister?
So I think that's the thing. So when he became Prime Minister in 2018, he was saying, okay, I'll hand over power to Anwar. But looking back, again, benefit of hindsight, I don't think he had any intention to. He
To step
wanted
down, you mean?
to step down to hand over power to Anwar. I think his main goal was to kick Najib out of power, and then after that, he was trying to figure out ways to stop Anwar from ever becoming prime minister, even though he had promised he would eventually hand power over. And so, between 2018 to 2020, there were calls for him to give a timeline to hand over power, as he promised. The calls were coming from DAP and other factions, just for the sake of stability. Because like, if you promised it, then at least show some transparency towards it.
Yeah.
Anyway, he obviously didn't, because now we kind of suspect he never intended to. And while one side was like pressuring him to keep to his promise, the other side was like, no, just let him do what he wants. Just let him do what he wants, so that all in the name of stability. And eventually, that was the main like thing that divided Pakatan Harapan, and eventually led to Bersatu leaving. Bersatu decided they wanted to leave Pakatan Harapan and form a new government with Barisan Nasional and PAS and so on and so forth.
This was right after 2020 March, is it?
This was, I guess, during that whole period. So apparently Bersatu had been talking with Barisan Nasional and PAS to form a new government and leave Pakatan Harapan behind. Mahathir,
was that shocking to you at that point?
Disappointed but not surprised.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah. All right, got you.
Very disappointed but not surprised. Mahathir, because like when 2018 happened, May 9th happened, it was like, this is too good to be true. And then for like 2 years after that, I was sort of on like, this is too good to be true kind of thing. So what happened was, from everything I've read, Mahathir didn't want to work with Barisan Nasional and decided to step down in the hopes that they'll be like, oh, don't step down. Come on, come back and be prime minister. We'll all support you as prime minister. Because after he stepped down, immediately Pakatan Harapan backtracked and said, no, we want you to be prime minister. We want you to be prime minister, and like reiterated their support for him as prime minister. So he was counting on like everyone. He wanted to form a unity government, so to speak, a real unity government where every single MP supported him as prime minister.
This was which year?
This is during that whole saga of the Sheraton move, when Bersatu announced they were leaving Pakatan Harapan to work with Barisan Nasional. And so that's why he stepped down, because he kind of didn't want to work with Barisan Nasional, while Barisan Nasional is still full of...
Oh, okay, but how was him stepping down? How does that relate to making sure that Anwar was not prime minister?
Okay, so Pakatan Harapan as a bloc had 120, 130 MPs.
Yeah, something
ish
like that.
During the period February 2020. So if he steps down, and based on the promises, then those 120, 130 MPs would have to support Anwar, would have to voice their support for Anwar as the prime minister, as per the manifesto, as per what had been said many times before. So by stepping down without saying that I'm handing power over to Anwar, or without some formal process where that was like set in stone, it relieved him of that duty of having to fulfill that promise.
Man,
it's convoluted.
It is.
It was, again, very unprecedented, but generally, I think that was what was going on.
Okay, sure. So, yeah, our 2022 cabinet was just formed and announced maybe last week or so. Who would you say is the most satisfying pick for one of the minister roles? Do you have a most satisfying pick or least satisfying one?
Least satisfying, I will say, is the dude who has been
the partying dude.
I think that's more funny than that one is like, it's kind of appropriate for the partying.
We're talking about the tourism minister, Tiong King Sing.
Tiong King Sing, there we go.
So there was just a video of him having fun during an event, drinking and partying with some of the...
someone was pointing out that like it's appropriate that the ministry in charge of like arts and culture would be led by someone named Singh.
Okay.
Anyway. My least favorite appointment to the cabinet will probably be the former Minister of Finance, who, Tengku Zafrul, he didn't win. I think he might be the only person in cabinet to actually not win a seat, to not be an MP. He had to be appointed as a senator for him to take this role.
Wait, you mean this election he didn't win a single seat?
He didn't win a seat. He ran and he lost against Dr. Zul, who in Kuala Selangor, who was the Minister of Health during Pakatan Harapan's time, and the fact that Dr. Zul won and doesn't have a cabinet seat, and Tengku Zafrul lost but has a cabinet seat, I think really stings.
So do you feel like it kind of doesn't make sense that he has a role now as in one of the
It doesn't make sense, but like again, it's just part of this unity government. A lot of things don't make sense. The fact that PH and BN are working together doesn't make any sense. But
is it a good thing, in your opinion?
That's a good question. Like, okay, let's say we see the world in black and white. Is it a good thing?
Because a lot of people think that it is a good thing, right?
I will say on like if we saw the world in like good versus bad, this leans good, just because we have a government that's made up of a majority of MPs versus for the past 2 years there was never a vote of confidence to prove that Ismail Sabri or Muhyiddin did have a majority of support from MPs. This time we will have a vote of confidence on the 19th of December. Maybe I'll eat my words again. Maybe he loses his vote of confidence. But I guess for the first time in over 2 years now, we're going to have, if he passes the vote of confidence, we're going to have a legitimate government again. And so for me, that leans good.
What are your thoughts on Anwar having the role of the finance minister as well?
Fucking hate that. I hate that so goddamn much.
Okay. You're not the first one to share that opinion as well.
Yeah, like...
Has that ever happened, having a prime minister that also shares the role of a...
Yeah, so that was like the big thing with Najib's prime ministership, where he was able...
He was the finance minister?
He was the finance minister, and he was able to set up 1MDB.
Yeah.
And like Mat Sabu, who is the president of Amanah, his joke was, so the minister of finance was able to get permission from the prime minister, and the prime minister was able to ask money from the finance minister, and the finance minister was able to give money to the prime minister. And so, because they were both the same person.
Yep.
And so I think a good thing that happened in 2018 was we finally separated that role, and that continued into Muhyiddin's and Ismail Sabri's cabinet, that the finance minister and prime ministership were two separate people for that check and balance. But for some reason, they decided to merge those two again against every smart person telling them that that's a bad idea. A lot of people are like saying he was forced to. We don't know what happened behind the scenes to like force him into that decision, so I can't say. But from our place of limited knowledge and ignorance, this looks like a bad idea.
Yeah.
And I
just
hate
based
it.
on history itself, right?
Yeah.
Sure enough, we've got all the reasons to think so.
Yeah.
Talking about that one MDB shit, right?
And he's currently being tried in court for it.
How do you think he actually is living, like in prison?
In prison.
Yeah. How do you think he is actually living?
So like a lot of people have their tinfoil hats on,
Yep.
like saying that we've never seen a picture of him.
We haven't, right? Have we?
We've not. And so wondering if he's actually in like some resort somewhere enjoying himself.
In Kajang lah, probably.
we don't know. Maybe like when they need him to show in public, they'll bring him back to Kajang.
And just take a picture, right?
But I don't subscribe that theory. I think he is serving time in prison because I don't know. For me, it's pointless to want to like be conspiracy theorist about this.
It's basically like you're gonna say whatever you think could be happening.
Yeah.
But there's no proof also.
Exactly. So it's like pointless. So at this point, I'm just going to take Jabatan Penjara Negara's word for it and assume that he actually is in Penjara.
Do you have any predictions like whether he will be out soon? Because remember, his daughter said that recently.
There's no reason to think he will serve anything less than his 12 years in prison. So, no, hopefully he's out in 2034.
I don't know, man. It's just hard to believe that he would.
It's really, I'm saying this and I know this, but somewhere in the back of my mind, I'm still thinking this is unbelievable.
Yeah, and we're just basing things off of history.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you think we can expect from Anwar being the 10th Prime Minister? Any like general thoughts what to expect?
So far, what we have seen that like they're going to be working on is like the Home Ministry is working on giving citizenship to kids born to Malaysian mothers abroad, which has been a really big issue, and that's a really good step forward. the law
Has that been approved or worked on?
that is currently being worked on.
Yeah.
And in fact, it was part of BNNPH's manifesto. So
I heard Hannah you talking about that too.
Yes,
the one
yes.
Of,
it has been a big issue, and I do think we're finally going to see some movement on that. Another big thing I'm excited about is the separation of the Attorney General and Public Prosecutor. So the Attorney General, Public Prosecutor thing. So the Attorney General is the, so to speak, lawyer for the government.
Yeah.
I don't know enough about this topic myself, but what I do understand from it is that like having the lawyer for the government be the same person as the guy who decides what criminal gets prosecuted.
It's not a...
It means the government can then decide who they want prosecuted and who they want to let go, which is a really bad thing because then it means the government can macam use that against their enemies. The way we saw Barisan Nasional while they were in power use that against opposition MPs.
Yeah.
So separating that means there's some check and balance that like prosecutions from here on out won't be political and that there won't be witch hunts. Hopefully, if things work out, there won't be witch hunts. And at least, for example, if a politician who stole millions of ringgit gets prosecuted, their supporters can't say, oh, this is just the work of the government, of the political party in power today, taking revenge on their enemy. Macam tu. They can't say that anymore because hopefully now the public prosecutor will be an independent, impartial person from the politics.
Hopefully that happens. Who do you think is going to do the best in their role for the current 2022 cabinet?
This is not based on fact or anything. I'm just going to say as someone who's a big fan of her, I am very excited for Hanayo. This is 100% bias.
Been a long time coming.
Yeah. 100, and again, it's not based on fact or anything. It's just I like Hanayo. She attended our wedding. Like
really?
I met my wife at a Hanayo event, and so like 100%, I'm all about. I love the fact that Hanayo is now cabinet minister.
She was just supporting in one of the events, or okay, never mind. We don't have to talk about that.
No, it was just an event where like Hanayo was talking about. It was an event about youth and stuff, and so we both went there independent of each other, and then we met each other there.
Yo, so you know what? This is so fucking dangerous. Like all the shit. I'm just gonna put it aside, lah. Okay. Anyways, yeah, let's just talk about whatever. So yeah, dude, you're so interested in politics. Do you have any like intentions or trying to get involved yourself?
Like I don't know, something big will have to change in my life for me to consider like, okay, I want to step into the ring. I don't know.
Step into the ring. You do boxing as well.
I do. I noticed the
yeah, because I checked out your LinkedIn. You still train? Do any boxing?
Yeah, from time to time. I actually trained my wife to be a really good pad person. So she
she makes you look good. yeah.
Yes, I don't know. For me, something really big would have to change in my life for me to consider running for politics.
Well, when you were younger, when you were studying, you did law, right? You never thought about going into politics even when you were younger, or you just liked keeping a close eye on it?
I like being able to hold powerful people to account. I like being able to speak up.
That's why you did law. Justice, right?
Yeah, law, justice, good versus evil. Again, the whole thing about like watching Marvel movies, all those things, that for me was the main thing. That's why I studied law. That's why I'm so interested in politics. For me, I don't know, and where I am in life right now, I think I do a better job from the outside throwing stuff in.
Sure.
Sorry, unrelated question. What do you think about the current Marvel roster? Is it better than the the MPs we have right now?
I will say, so we recently watched Black Panther, and oh my god, like it's easy to like get so much
the second one, right?
overwhelmed by like how many Marvel movies and Marvel shows are out right now, and it just feels like a lot. I wasn't a big fan of She-Hulk. I felt like it was just really weird.
I didn't even watch She-Hulk. Was that this year as well?
It was this year. Yeah, it was this year. And then I watched Black Panther and I was like, oh my god, this is what I remember like loving about Marvel movies. It was so just like captivating in a way that like had something meaningful to say about good and evil versus evil, because the evil person or the antagonist in the movie was not really an antagonist. Anyway, my opinion about Marvel roster right now, there's so much. I hate that there's so much right now, but I did like Black Panther. Is the short answer to that
I
question.
got something to bring up. What do you think about the fact that a lot of these movies are very PC right now, and sometimes it might actually come to a point where it's a bit, I would say, unrealistic in some senses.
I will say this. Okay, so contohnya when we talk about
The aerial
PC-ness in movie culture, it's like, oh, they're bringing in non-white people, they're bringing in black people to act in like characters and
like
stuff.
Ariel from The Little Mermaid.
Sure.
Yeah.
At first, I was on that boat. I was like, why do they need to have representation for the sake of representation?
Yeah, and at the expense of changing the original character
all that
storyline and shit. Yep.
And then I watched Supernatural. You guys remember that?
That's an old series, right?
Yeah, from like the early 2000s of like these two white guys
Yeah,
going around the US hunting ghosts and demons and shit. And like I watched maybe 8 episodes of that of the first season, and I really couldn't because that show was so freaking white. It was just like fuck, bosan nak mampus gila babi that like side character white, main character white, side character yang kat tepi jalan yang you barely see for a second white. It was like that is not how
maybe
your country, because I have lived in the US and it's like that's not how the US looks. The US is very, very diverse.
Yeah.
And so what I think the PC thing is doing, it is making the world look more realistic.
Yeah.
The world is not just white. The world is very macam mixed. And so the issue was sebelum ni, a lot of people of color were not able to act or were not able to be part of these productions because there was systemic racism that prevented anyone but a certain type of people who look a certain type of way from entering the industry. So by being sort of PC or woke about this, you're bringing people on who weren't able to come on board before and actually making production and making movies look more realistic to the world than they looked before. That's my personal opinion on it.
No, I think that is the what do you call it, the pros of it, because it is true. When you watch movies and then you see they've got all white people and then you see maybe every here and there 1 or 2 Asian characters, but in reality in a lot of American towns there's more than just a couple of Asians. There's Asians everywhere.
Yeah. And it's like, for example, when we're talking about like period movies, do you guys watch Peaky Blinders?
I didn't watch that, but that was huge.
Peaky Blinders is like this show about maybe
in Britain,
yes,
right?
early 1900s, late 1800s Britain, and the first season had a very huge macam thing about Chinese in Birmingham at the time.
Yeah,
and there was a significant upper population of that diaspora living there, and so by having that representation, you are being true to history. You're not macam just plastering over and saying these people never existed. So I think generally this PC wokeness thing has been good for truth, has been good for opportunities for
people to get
people,
casted.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think it just makes stories less boring when you have that sort of representation.
I think a lot of the pushback has also got to do with the fact that people are not used to change, or people are adapting to change. They feel like it's not it's just something that they're not used to, so they probably criticize it. And then maybe 5-10 years down the line, when a lot of movies are just more realistic, like what you mentioned, which is being more inclusive, and then people would actually get used to it and no one's actually talking about it anymore. It's just something normal.
Okay, and so also I think another thing of the pushback is like, for example, like Ariel, the Little Mermaid, they got a non-white character to play the part. Maybe
a brown character.
Maybe macam their thing is they hired a person of color just because she's a person of color versus the person who's best for the role. Maybe there's truth to that. Maybe there is a white actress who can sing better, who can pretend to be a mermaid better, who actually is a mermaid. I don't know. I don't care.
Yeah.
Maybe that is true. And honestly, that sucks for that white actress who lost that part even though they were better. But again, generally, for the sake of storytelling, for the sake of truth, this PC push has been for the better than for the worst. And that white actress is just one example of this fake white actress that I invented off the top of my
Yeah,
head.
yeah, yeah.
Is just one person who has been, given a bad end of the deal, versus before this, so many people of color were not even considered, and what's the word I'm looking for? Oppressed? I don't want to use that word oppressed because it means so much.
Just put to the side.
We're put to the side. Exactly.
Yeah.
We're put to the side, even though they possibly could have been the best person for the job. And so I think this PC push, again, has been for the better. And maybe white people now.
Oh, do you have an opinion on like a lot of new genders being introduced?
Oh, fuck. Okay, this one is.
I don't think in Malaysia people actually get in trouble talking about this sort of shit. In Malaysia, no, right?
No, it is a contentious point. I guess we do have conversion therapy here and stuff, and like,
what is conversion therapy? What do you mean?
So, for example, someone who was born male but then identifies as another gender, and then like people force them to go back to being male even though they don't identify as being male.
They take hormone shots and
hormone blockers.
Yeah, all that stuff. I think the fundamental issue for me is letting people live how they want to live as long as they don't hurt anyone else.
Yeah. That I can
beyond that,
agree.
Beyond that, I don't want to, like, if they're not disturbing you, why you want to catch out them? Like,
yeah.
I don't know. It's never made sense to me.
I think a lot of the pushback that people have with it is because people who they want to be called they or them or whatever, and then they are trying to exercise or what do you call it, abuse their rights to bring other people down. I think that's when people have a problem with it. But then other than that,
in what way? Like, what do you mean?
I hear Jordan Peterson talk about this shit, like, so like, let's say they force you to call them by whatever they want to be called, but you feel like you just want to, you don't want to oblige by that. You want to go about your day and refer to them as what you think, which is he or...
I think I've heard that perspective from Jordan Peterson or people like him, and it's like, but why does that bother you so much? Like, for example, let's say my name is Iqbal, and you can't pronounce the name Iqbal, and you want to call me Bob or whatever. It's like, why would you call me Bob even though I said I want to be called Iqbal? Like, I don't understand. Is it that difficult for you to say Iqbal? Is it that difficult for you to, like, okay, maybe you've gone your whole life never ever
pronouncing that word,
word. And like, I will be patient with you. Like, if you trip up or make mistakes, I'm not going to hold that against you. But like, why would you not call me by the thing that I want to be called? Then I told you I want to be called that. Like, why would you call me a thing that I never told you I'm that? That's, I think, the issue for me. Is like, when you see it, I don't know.
So let's say, right, if you were a teacher teaching at the university, and then your student wants to be called, she wants to be referred to as they, right? And you continue to call her she.
Like, for example, again, using that example where I want to be called Iqbal, and then this person is not used to it. I think what's required of me is to be patient and understanding, in that this person maybe just needs a reminder. But then on the part of that person, maybe you have to also see, having to constantly remind you that my name is Iqbal can be tiring for me.
Yeah.
Can be. So it's a two-way street where, like, on the one hand, I think I should be patient and understanding of that person, but also that person should understand me, that, maybe I don't want to keep repeating myself.
What if there is a penalty involved if you are not able to refer to the person as what he or she wants to? So
for example, it's like, if that person is making it a point, okay, I don't want to call you Iqbal, I want to call you Bob. Like, I think there should be some disciplinary action involved. 100%. It's like, why are you being a piece of shit right now? Like, I should be able, like, let's say there's the teacher who doesn't want to call me Iqbal, they want to call me Bob. I'm like, I'll go to the freaking principal and be like, the fuck? That's not my goddamn name. Like, why can't this bitch learn my name?
Yeah. Okay, not talking about name.
Yeah.
So she wants to be called Dea, but the teacher refuses, and then he's
Yeah, and so in that instant, it's like, I see that as the same thing. It's like, that is a good reason to go to the principal's office and be like, hey, why can't this teacher, call me by what? Or refer to me by how I want to be referred? Like, what the fuck is her problem?
Do you think there should be penalties?
Yeah. In the same way that I think that teacher should maybe be disciplined if she doesn't want to call me Iqbal. 100% the same thing for me.
I guess then it goes down to, like, freedom of speech, right? Being able to to say what you.
The rule on that is like your freedom to swing your arm stops where my face begins.
Okay.
It's
Where-
like, okay, yes, you have the freedom. I mean, it's not like someone's stopping you from like from saying the word he, she, or they. It's like, I'm just asking that when it comes to me specifically, you refer to me as how I want to be referred to. You can still say those words. It's not like your right to freedom of speech is being infringed. And also, I want to say this is, I think a lot of people confuse freedom of speech for what it is. Freedom of speech just means the freedom to say what you want. When we think about it as a human right,
Yeah.
it just means you can say what you want without the government busting in your house and then taking you and throwing you into prison. You still have your freedom of speech if you call me Bob. Like,
Definitely.
I'm just going to call you a fucking asshole. And that's my freedom of speech to call you a fucking asshole.
It is.
Because I'm not throwing you in prison. Like, for example, if we're in a work situation and I tell our boss that, hey, this guy's being a fucking asshole to me, and then the boss reprimands you, it's not that the boss is taking away your freedom of speech. He's not throwing you in prison. He's just stopping you from being a fucking asshole. Macam tu.
Yeah. I guess you could just, what do you call that? Accommodate. Like little things. Put your ego down, and there shouldn't be any problems.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. It's just like lack of understanding. We're not.
There's this thing like two parties don't agree, right? The first thing that they could be focusing on rather than not is focus on the things that y'all do agree on before focusing on the things that you don't agree on. Like, for example, opposition and the government. Both sides want a better future for our country, but it's so common that we only focus on the things that they disagree on.
I see what you're saying. There's this like cartoon where like on the one side there's like people in the baju KKK. You know KKK?
Yeah, I know.
And like they're saying all races but white races should be exterminated. And then on the other sides, it's like colored people saying we want equal rights. So you have those two sides, one saying we want equal rights, and then the other side saying all races should be exterminated except for the white race.
Yeah.
And then the person in the centrist is like going, can we find a compromise? How do you compromise one side saying every race should be exterminated and then the other side saying we just want equal rights? There's no way you like.
Yeah.
Some things you just can't
Yeah,
compromise on. I think some things you have to put your foot down and say no, you're being unreasonable right now. There's a side that is clearly
like there's actually
betrayal.
no common ground to find.
Not
Between
only
the
is there
two.
no common ground to find, it's like trying to find the common ground means you're siding with the people who want to kill the other side versus the other side just wants to be left alone.
There's this dude, Daryl Davis. I saw him on Joe Rogan podcast. So he devoted his life to understanding why someone could hate. He studied the KKK clan, right? He's a African American dude. So when he was at the age of 10 years old, I think he was participating in a parade, and he had people throw rocks at him. And then he couldn't understand why someone could hate another person, even if the person does not know anything about him. So he devoted his life to understanding how people become racist, right? So what he's actually managed to, I think in probably a few decades of trying his best to understand these people, he's managed to convert a couple of KKK leaders. So the leaders, right? They have funny names like Grandmasters,
Grand Dragon,
a lot
and
of shit
like that.
yeah. So he managed to convert a couple of those clan leaders. They actually have multiple leaders. It's not very big. Like one clan leader can have maybe 20 members. It's not too big. Their whole population is only about 10,000, something like that. It went down drastically for decades already. Yeah. So the way he's managed to convert those people out of their beliefs, right? So KKK believes in white supremacists, only one superior race. The way he's done it is through being their friend. So it starts off very cold. He plays jazz music in a local bar, and KKK members would actually enjoy his music, and they'll be surprised, and they'll come up to him and say stuff like, oh, I never thought that a black person could play such good jazz music. I've never heard such good jazz music coming from someone who is of your skin color. And then after a while, he starts to hang out with them, invites them over to his house to meet his family, have dinner and stuff like that, and they slowly but eventually they pass on the rope to him. I thought that was very interesting.
I think yes, I love those stories.
I love it, bro.
Like there's many instances that I do like this stories of like reverends who do outreach macam tu, and then manage to like former former KKK members like talking about how they were like brought out of their life by people who took steps like that. And I think those people are saints, for lack of a better word. They are macam top 1% of human beings. I think to expect everyone to be like that is unreasonable and unrealistic.
You see, it's like everyone wants that. Everyone would love for that to happen, you know? Be able to talk someone out of racism.
Yeah.
Right? But how many people actually devote their life? And like I said, that dude, Daryl Davis, the reason why he devoted his life to that was because he was hit with such a heavy, you can call it a traumatic incident, you know, when he was 10 and then he got stoned by random people for being black. So he just spent his life he wanted to find answers, being very curious.
It's like I feel like you need to have the right temperament for it and the right everything for it. And it's like
and also a lot of people, most people are focused on their own lives. You know, they'll start thinking like, oh shit, I want to be able to afford a home, start a family, and then you kind of will not go out of your way to pursue things that will not be rewarding you financially. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, Iqbal, you've been to, how many countries have you been to so far?
Lost count.
Lost count?
I don't keep
30,
track.
40?
Maybe around there.
Okay, so when I say the word nice people, what countries come to mind? Just based on your experience, not what people commonly say.
That's the thing, right? It's like nice meaning polite, nice meaning welcoming, nice meaning helpful.
Okay.
And so I will say this. I was just having this conversation with a friend, and we agreed that like places like Japan, for example, where they're very, very known to be racist.
Are they?
They're known to be very racist, but they are very hospitable. They are very nice. Like if you get lost in Tokyo or whatever and you somehow manage to like get help from one, they're very helpful. In the American South, for example, there's this thing known as Southern hospitality.
Is Texas considered the South?
Yes.
Okay.
Deep South.
Okay.
There's this thing called Southern hospitality, and then you have people who 100% Trump supporters, 100% believe like all immigrants should go back to where they came from. But when you meet them,
that's what I wanted to know.
They're the nicest, kindest, like most, like they'll invite you into their homes and feed you, and
you're talking based off experience, right?
So the people I've met who've been just the kindest, nicest, all these things, I know for a fact they believe certain things that I fundamentally disagree with.
Okay. For example, like what?
For example, stuff about race. For example, stuff about like Donald Trump being president and everything he stands for. But when you're face to face them, they are among the kindest people I've ever met. So I don't know. I don't think we should conflate kindness with goodness. There is an overlap. But at the same time, being kind doesn't automatically mean you're a good person, I think. Being mean, being rude, being suka bergaduh, being an asshole also doesn't automatically mean that you're a bad person, I think.
I never deny that I judge people. I judge people all the time.
I love judging people.
I judge people all the fucking time. But guess what? The moment when we meet face to face, that's where our relationship starts here. And everything that I've thought about you, I'll judge you based on this.
Yeah.
So I guess it's kind of like you mentioned that you can meet people in the southern areas where, you know, they're known to be more Trump supportive, right? A lot of the people there. And
I sincerely hope they never see this. The people I'm thinking about, I sincerely hope they never see this.
Why? No, but because you are...
I will say, I'm thinking of very specific people
that
like
you met.
Yeah, and my wife and I, we love them to bits.
You guys never talk politics, right?
Yeah, I think we just cannot agree on certain things.
But it's such an elephant in the room because
it is,
right.
It is.
But what is so beautiful about it is they are still being so cordial with you guys, and you guys are being so nice to them, and you know, and it's all genuine.
Yeah, 100%.
Humans, I guess. Like, how many times have you met people that have met someone and then they come and tell you that, oh, actually, that dude's a really nice person. But then when you hear shit about him on the news and all, he's an asshole. Right.
Yeah. I've met a bunch of people who from Twitter, I thought I would have hated you, but actually you're not.
Because you judge them. And then when you get to know them, it's a different story.
Yeah.
Okay, so for, nice people, which country do you think of?
I will say US. US in particular. We hear a lot of shit about them, but like I've not been to a country other than US where like strangers are more likely to strike up a conversation with you.
Have you been to Australia?
I have not.
Okay, I think you would really change your
Okay. Yeah.
because I spent a good amount of time in Australia. Worked and studied there for 8 years. You know how people always say Canada people are the nicest? Yeah, Americans say that. I think Australians are probably the same. They're so nice, very friendly. They're very.
My wife has lived in both, so maybe she
Which
can-
part of Australia?
Melbourne, but I was a child.
Even if you were a child, maybe you would have remembered a little bit, like how they're like.
I mean,
I was in Melbourne
people are
too.
always nice to children.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true. Okay.
Yeah, no,
okay.
that's-
Super
Tak boleh.
asshole.
Tak boleh
Yeah.
dengar.
Yeah. You love kids?
We don't have plans. to
No,
have
I
one,
didn't ask that.
but-
I just
but,
asked whether you love kids.
we have nephews and nieces who I guess we don't hate.
I never realized I liked kids until I had to spend good amount of time with them.
And you actively like them?
Yeah, because I did a early childhood education course.
Whoa.
So what I have is a diploma in teaching kindergarten kids. I think it applies here, even though I've only taught in Australia. Which, I did that for placement, so it's about 6 to 8 weeks. Yeah, and then you hang out with the children, and then I would have other friends in the same course. The first week they'll be like, "Oh, it's so fun, they're so cute." But by the fourth week, they'll be like, "Oh my god, they're so fucking annoying." I just, I don't want to. They're changing their diapers, right? That's the worst part. Fortunately, I didn't have to do that too many times, but up till the fourth week, right, I was still so entertained by them. Like I thought they're hilarious and super funny.
I get some people.
They're really dumb.
I
And
guess
that's
some
the
people
best
are
part.
just built for that. I don't think I am. Like I have nephews and one niece, and like, I mean, I love them obviously, but I don't know how much of that is because I'm forced to, because
What?
they're my blood, versus I love them because I genuinely
Are you-
like they're great. They're great creatures to be around.
Are you kind of relating this to whether you want kids or not, or just whether you like kids in general? Because
I guess that played into why I personally don't
Yeah.
want kids. Like seeing my sisters, how they're kids and how much trouble it is.
So I've talked about this a couple of times, right? I feel like anyone who tells you that they don't want to have kids, right, it's probably because when they were growing up, maybe they didn't have the best conventional parenthood. Also, another reason is they themselves are not confident in themselves as a parent yet. That's another big one. Oi.
Do you
Oh.
terasa any of this? Because
No.
like yeah, her parents are like among the most, when I think of a home, like the word home,
That's
her
them.
parents come to mind, and they're just so wholesome and loving and kind and all these things.
That's why she wants kids.
And that's why she does not want kids. And for
Oh, she does not?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Then that's
so macam entah, it's like okay, kalau macam tu and you become like this and you don't want kids, I don't know what it is. I don't know why some people grow up wanting to have kids and some people don't.
okay.
Maybe, so she says, is because she was a terrible child growing up, which, by the way, she says she was a terrible child growing up.
Yeah, you
Every
don't look
time-
like one.
Yeah, every time her mom like talks to me about her,
It's an angel.
always like an angel. Everything her mom ever says about her is that she was an angel, so so easy to take care
How
of.
much skeletons do you have? Yeah.
So it was like, okay, but she's like convinced she doesn't want kids because she was a terrible child, and so karma will be, if she ever has a child, she will get a terrible child like her.
People change their minds,
Yeah,
But it's good that you guys both agree on this.
Yeah.
Because one thing, let's talk about the things that you cannot do once you have children, right?
yeah,
You cannot have a certain amount of free time anymore.
yeah.
Yeah, especially during the nurturing period of them during the early years. You're pretty much a mom is a full-time job,
Also, the fact that she likes to travel means that, like, if we want to travel with a kid, that's like what, 1,000
Babies
ringgit
crying
lebih.
on the plane?
At least, yeah, babies
dear.
crying on a plane, and
Oh,
then having
dear.
to think about like family-friendly, like you wouldn't be able to like hike day-long hikes with a kid. Well, maybe you can. Maybe some kids are built for that. But anyway, there's a lot of things you have to think about with a child.
Going to
Just-
the movies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We just got a cat,
Oh, okay.
and like it's nowhere near the same thing. But it's like we already have to think about, oh my god, if we go on a holiday, what are we gonna do with this piece of shit? Like
Yeah.
when she poops, like who's gonna clean that up when like that's at least like a couple hundred
You
ringgit
guys
a
can
month.
take turns to clean up poop.
What's her name?
Her name is Cammy.
Shout out, Cammy.
Shout out Cammy.
Yeah.
She's
Dude, I
like-
was talking about something the other day, right? So we had last guest we had on child psychologist.
uh-huh.
You want to take a wild guess how many child psychologists there are in the whole of Malaysia?
Ooh, I want to say 60.
Oh, that's actually doesn't seem too much, but the real answer is even worse, which is 10.
Fuck!
Yeah, 10. So
Oh shit!
yeah, so Katiana was telling that to me, and she works in Pantai Hospital. Yeah. And when she told me 10, right, I kept like reconfirming, like, really? What? Are you serious? Like, you talking about the
Yeah,
whole
hold
of
on.
Malaysia?
So what is it, like
the whole
young
Malaysia, bro?
specifically that works in child psychology specifically?
Mm,
Only 10?
yeah.
So like let's say a psychologist who has experience with I don't know some other shit. That's not counted.
See, I think it comes down to also just labeling yourself child psychologist,
Okay.
because something even weirder is a lot of our clients are not a lot of our clients, just a general age range of our clients are kids till people younger than her. So she's about early 30s, I would say. So they're not exactly kids, you know. But she considers herself a child psychologist, and she tells me that there's only 10 child psychologists, you know, in the whole of Malaysia. Isn't that surprising?
That's
Because she was telling me that the common stereotype when she was growing up, maybe when the time where she had to make a decision 15 years ago of what she wanted to study, people always discouraged her, saying that there's no future in no career in psychology. Interesting, right? I thought that was interesting because, and funny enough, okay, so first of all, I disagreed because it was something that also fascinated me for one, but also the fact that I know right now that shit should be booming, man. Business should be booming if you're a psychologist right now.
Especially like with the whole
Social media
awakeness
age.
with like mental health and stuff. We do have to leave very soon.
Okay, yeah.
Um,
What time is it?
11:44.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Okay. So since we gotta wrap up soon, guys, last question for you. Do you think racism has gotten worse over the years in Malaysia?
No. Don't think so.
Why so?
I think what we're seeing has always been there, and if you think it's gotten worse, it's either you weren't paying attention, or it's because of social media where things are like more out in the open now.
Okay, but also you think that the younger generation, they're more exposed to, you know, Western cultures. Being an Anglophile is not so as uncommon as it was last time, and also that would help out a lot.
Yeah, so there's more awareness now, and so I don't think racism has gotten worse. I think people's awareness has gotten better, and I think with stuff like social media has made things like you get to see more things in a shorter span of time, and then
Sometimes they highlight the worst possible stuff and make you think otherwise.
And so I don't think it's gotten worse. I just think it's always been like this.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we're gonna.
I will say so. My wife likes to like ask me at the end of the day, what's the most surprising thing you've learned today? And I think that the fact that there's only 10 child psychologists in Malaysia.
Yeah, I was hoping that would shock you as well. Yeah, dude, so another thing I asked her, psychologists in general, how many? And she mentioned, you remember 60? Psychologists, like 60. I'm like, what? So she says that they know everyone. They know like
that's the size of like 2 classrooms. Yeah.
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 And I specified whether it's in KL or the whole of Malaysia, and she said 10 psychologists child psychologists in the whole of Malaysia. Yeah.
Shit.
So she might be wrong, but that's what she told me, and she's working in that industry. Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right, we're gonna wrap up now. Okay, guys. So if you have enjoyed this episode so far, and if you've watched up to this point, put a emoji of a Malaysia flag and put a splash sign next to it if you enjoyed this episode a whole lot. Okay, and guys, give it up to Iqbal. Yeah, Iqbal. And yeah, we'd love to have you on another time.
Cool. Thank you for having me, Brian.
And I hope we didn't say any shit that's gonna get cancelled out. Yeah, I could tell that the first 30 minutes was a bit uncomfortable because you were trying to think, oh fuck, I have to tread lightly and
Yeah. But I guess when we moved away from politics,
okay.
it's easier.
Yeah, and guys, leave a comment, your thoughts, whatever you guys think about. I'll try my best to reply to all of y'all. Like this video, subscribe, share this shit with your friends, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Give it up for Iqbal, guys. See ya.
Cool.
It's missing my homies. I'm missing my oldies, my brothers, my cronies. We all went to court, but before only courts that we knew were the ones where we were shooting three, selling Kobe. To a legend, rest in peace to the old me. Rest in peace to my brothers, rest in peace to my whole team. The oldest, I'm missing my shawty.